We are looking today at an Australian lady who has been called an angel and a saint. She's a lady who, in her retirement, has taken into her care scores of disabled, deformed and abandoned Chinese children. She's put into practice Jesus' principle of caring for others. She aims to provide unwanted and disabled children with a life of dignity and happiness. Her name is Linda Shum. Linda was born in 1948 and brought up in Inverell in Queensland, Australia. She was raised as a Catholic Christian and became a teacher. She married Greg Shum, a Pentecostal Christian, in 1970 at age 22. Greg was also a teacher. They had a happy marriage and had 3 children, Jason, Deborah and Damien, who are now adults with children of their own. Linda now has 9 grandchildren. Linda and Greg worshipped at Gympie's Christian Family Church, and the pastor there was and still is Rick Roberts. At one stage, Linda fostered 2 Aboriginal children, but they were taken from her by the government because she was white-skinned. For a few years before she retired, she taught Australian children with disabilities. In 1997, Linda and Greg rewarded themselves at retirement with a trip to China. On this trip, they saw firsthand the dark side of China's infamous 1979 one-child policy. Chinese parents crave a perfect child as their one child, and babies who deviate from the norm are often unwanted and abandoned. Some end up in government-run orphanages and suffer neglect and poverty. Linda and Greg saw these orphanages firsthand in the city of Jiaozhuo in Henan province in central China. They decided to do what they could to help Chinese children with mental and physical disabilities. They started by setting up, with their church's help, a small school for these neglected children, a place they could go to for some care, love and teaching a couple of hours a day. They formed a charity named Chinese Orphans Assistance Team, COAT. In 2002, they did this to help raise money for their venture. In 2006, they opened their first 2 homes for children with disabilities in Henan province. However, Linda's husband Greg died from a stroke that year. With her pastor's help, Linda Shum continued on, convinced that God wanted her to do this work. Linda took some of the worst cases from the government orphanages and brought them up in her orphanages, which she called Eagle's Wings. With the $50,000 from Greg's life insurance policy, she opened 2 new Eagle's Wings homes. She also sought to have as many disabled Chinese children as possible adopted in other countries, particularly in the USA. Australian adoptions of overseas children with disabilities have not been possible because the Australian government does not want to bear the medical costs for these children when they are in Australia. Linda now has 8 Eagle's Wings homes in China, caring for 60 Chinese children. Most of the children in her homes have mental or physical disabilities: blindness, spina bifida, cerebral palsy, brain damage, cleft palates, malformed feet, autism, missing limbs and hepatitis B. In some cases, she's been able to obtain corrective plastic surgery for the children with deformities. She has had a lot of support from her church, and volunteers go to China and assist her work on a voluntary basis. Other churches in the Gympie area also help, including Gympie Uniting Church, Hume Ridge Church of Christ, and St Bart's Anglican Church in Toowoomba. It currently costs Linda $400,000 per annum to run her school and homes. She is now planning to set up a vocational training school so that she can train her children in skills useful for holding down jobs as adults. To help raise funds for her homes, Linda writes and publishes Christian-themed novels and sells them as she travels around Australia seeking support for her work. She is getting assistance from the USA. Many USA churches are now setting up orphan ministries that send aid to ventures like Linda's and help prospective American adoptive parents raise the tens of thousands of dollars needed to adopt a child from overseas. Things have not been easy for Linda. The Chinese government shut down her school for a time and then allowed her to open it again. Linda herself had breast cancer and a double mastectomy in 2012. She has been diagnosed with neuropathy, a disease of the peripheral nervous system, and with macular degeneration of the eyes. Despite all this, she carries on, never wavering. She has appeared on Australian television and her work has been reported in the Australian press. We salute Australian Linda Shum, a devout Christian, who is making a difference for children with disabilities in China.
Christians